Good morning, everyone. This week I'm going to just share something with you that I've been working on, and then I might give you a few tips on bullion knots, because a lot of people have trouble with them, but they don't have to be as difficult as some people make them. Okay, so this is a current work in progress that I have been using for to work samples for my next book. And this will be coming out in about June, July this year. So it's at the publishers now. We've just finished our last sort of review and edit and all the rest of it, and it's getting to be very exciting for me. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you just a little bit of this. I'm going to have to finish it off before the book comes out. It's a long, one of those long stitch roll things that people are making. It's very long because I had a lot of samples to do. I'd like to just point this one out first, though. See how what I've done here is make a whole lot of long bullion knots over the lace. There's a lace doily here, and there is a sort of florally motif in lace here. So that's two lace motifs. And a lot of them are secured with bullion knots. And that's what gave me the idea that I'd probably demonstrate those. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's miles long, and when it's finished, I'll do a full video of it. And I think people might find it interesting anyway. There's a whole lot of new stitches. The book is another stitch, is volume 2 of Creative Stitches. And right, I'm just going to jump a whole heap now, because otherwise we'll be here forever and a day, and people don't like to be there forever and a day. So this is what I was just working on, this little lot. And once again, it's another little lace motif, and I'm just making small bullion knots on there. Now, I am actually going to demonstrate on a separate piece of fabric so that people can see what I'm doing. Now, the first thing about bullion knots is the needle. Now, I'm going to suggest that people buy what is called milliner or straw needles. They don't have to be this brand. This is the brand I use. I'm not affiliated in any way whatsoever. Now, the thing about a milliner's needle is that I'll just see if I can hang on, come back into it. There we go. The thing about a milliner's needle is that the whole shaft of the needle is the same diameter. What that means, including the eye. If you look at many embroiderer's needles, you'll see that there's a little bulge where the eye of the needle is. What that means is if you are making bullion knots, French knots, cast on stitch, drizzle stitch, there's a lot of wrapping that goes on around the needle, and then you move those wraps of threads up or down the needle, depending upon the stitch, And all of them, at some stage in the process, you have to take the needle through all those wraps, and the eye has to pass through all those wraps. And what that means, that's if somebody's a bit tense when they wrap their thread around the needle, if they're a bit tense, the thread is a bit tight, and then it can hit the needle eye, and it's just that extra little bit of tension, usually in the hands of the stitcher, that causes things then to knot up and go wrong and somebody has problems. So I suggest that, I mean, you can do bullion knots with using ordinary embroidery thread, or embroidery needles, but it's easier if you use a milliner's needle. So that would be my first tip. Now, what you do, it's not a difficult thing really, if you just stop and think about it. Now, make sure that I'm in frame. You take a bite of your fabric. If you're new to embroidery, when somebody says take a bite of your fabric, this is what they mean. They mean just take a little stitch of your fabric. Now, I have got this a bit loose. It's tense, it's tensioned, but not, drum tight. It's just a little bit loose, and I am actually tensioning with my finger behind. I'm going like this, behind, just to tension it just ever so slightly more. So, and that's something I do all the time. And people ask me how I scoop stitch when in a hoop, and that's what I do. I tension as I go with my thumb behind the fabric. So anyway, you take a bite of the fabric, you bring your needle out right next to the thread here. You can see where it's coming out. Then you push your needle up, and then you get that finger that you tension it with, push that needle that way. Can you see what I've done? I'll just move it around so that people can see how I'm holding it. This is my left hand, I'm right-handed. It's my non-dominant hand. So then wrap how many stitches around? Now this will be 6 or 7. I suggest, if you're new to making bullion knots and you have problems and your hands tense up or anything like that, just do, say, 4 wraps. Start off with a smaller bite of fabric here and just master 4 wraps, and then increase your wraps, then master 6, then master 7, then master 8, just make them bigger as you get more proficient at it. Right, so I've wrapped 6 or 7 times. These wraps, see how I've just pushed that down like that with my fingernail? I've just gone like that, just to make it snug. Now, these are not really tight around the needle, but they're not loose and slack and slopping about either. They're just wrapped, just gently wrapped. The number of wraps the distance when you push it down the needle like this, you should be able to eyeball it, and it should be just a fraction bigger. If you want them to bulge out, just a fraction bigger, maybe 1 wrap bigger, literally. Then what you do is you have one finger underneath your wraps, as you can see. I'll just bring it right up so you can see what I'm doing. And then grab it with your thumb. So now the bullion is between these 2 fingers. And as I pull the thread through, what that means is all those wraps aren't going to sort of pull against one another and go on top of one another and get into a knot. That's the theory. I still get knotty, but, a lot less. So now I'm going to release, see what's happened. I've pulled it through. And as I pull through, now see what I'm doing? I'm holding this thread here and I'm pulling. I'm going to get my nail and go like that. And then what we're going to do is just to make them nice and even, this is called rubbing the belly. See how I'm just rubbing it with my needle? And it just makes those wraps nice. And then you take it back through to the back, take the thread back through to the back. There we go. And there you've got your bullion knot. I'll do one more. I know this is a video and you can stop and start and all that stuff, but sometimes people like to see it second time round, just for real. I'm just being real here. Okay, so here's a You take a bite of the fabric, push your needle quite up. You've got lots, if you're using a milliner's needle, you've got so much room, it's ridiculous. Wrap. Now, you know, then nudge the wraps down the needle so that it's sitting right against the fabric. Then grab your bullion, pull it through. And it's that pulling through phase. If you're using an ordinary needle, if you get stuck at this pulling through phase, try a milliner's. I would really suggest that. And I pull it that way. Get my thumb and just nudge it along. Take it back in. Okay, now the only other thing I want to talk about is, like, when you're doing something like this, I just demonstrated these bullions using a pearl 5. This is pearl 8. Very often if you use a pearl thread, if you have trouble with knotting, instead of using, if you're using cotton floss, if you use a pearl thread, you'll find it easier because cotton floss has 2 strands. Pearl thread is a non-divisible thread. So it's an easier thing to manipulate when you're learning a stitch. Also, whenever you're doing lace motifs like this, try and match the thread that you're going to stitch in to the thread this is crocheted, to the thread that was used to crochet the motif. And it'll just, the bullion knots will stand out, but they won't be too bulgy. They just won't be big and ugly. How's that? Okay, I hope that was useful to you, and enjoy your stitching. See you next week. Oh, and like and subscribe. I keep forgetting to ask people to do that, so please do that. Right, bye.